So one of the number one things y'all have been asking me about since moving to New York City is how have I manifested soul friends? And as I was thinking about this and finally recording a podcast episode on it for y'all, I was thinking about how I was going to talk about this and what I wanted to bring to the table for it. And I was like, why would I record this podcast episode alone when I could bring on the soul friends that I have manifested? So, on today's episode of the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, I am joined by two of my best friends, Ajaí and Tal. These two humans have completely changed my life. These are the kinds of friends that I used to pray for. These are the kind of friends that I didn't know actually existed. And I could not be more grateful for the friendship that they have offered to me since getting to know them over literally just the past few months. They feel like some of the closest people in my life. They are some of the closest people in my life. And so I wanted to bring them onto the No Bullshit Manifestation Show because they both have such incredible wisdom around how to show up and be the most authentic version of yourself in relationships. And they've been able to bring such an authentic and inspired side of me out. So if you fall in love with them, which you probably will, just like I've fallen in love with them, you can connect with all of us over on Instagram. All of our Instagram profiles are linked down below in the show notes. And I would love it if you love this podcast episode. Take a screenshot of it, share it over on Instagram, and tag the three of us so that we can reach out to you. All of us love to connect with the people who are vibing on the same sort of vibe as us. And if you're looking for those soul friends, if you're looking for people like us to connect with, literally just connect with us. Come hang out with us on Instagram. So those links to our profiles are down below in the show notes. But without a further ado, I hope you enjoy this podcast episode on how to manifest your soul friends. What's up, and welcome to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, the podcast that demystifies all of the nonsense that surrounds manifestation and gives you the tools that you need to create your happiest, healthiest, and wealthiest life. I'm your host, Kat Kozad, manifestation expert and life coach, and I am so happy that you're here. Let's fucking do this thing. Alrighty, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. I wanted to welcome Tal and Ajaí onto the show today to chat with me about manifesting your soul friends, creating a community, creating a tribe. I wish that you guys could see them right now because they're doing the exact same thing and it's so cute. But y'all have already heard Tal on the podcast before. You're going to hear more of Ajaí on the podcast because he's coming back for sure. But I am just so happy to have both of you on the show today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. So happy to be here. This is the best way to start out a morning with you two.
It's wild. Like the sun just got up and I'm already giggling and dancing and tiptoeing on my tush, just stoked to see you. I love you so much. And wait, Tal, we're both wearing blue head covering, complete ajna opening today. And I did notice that we were mirroring each other.
You guys were literally and I are always in sync.
Yeah, for the listeners who can't see this, they were both staring at me with googly eyes with their left hands lifted up to their faces, just smiling. It was so cute.
I love you so much. This is so exciting to do with you.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so what I want to kick us off with is I want to ask both of you, what was childhood like for both of you within your friendships? Because I know for me, growing up in the community that I grew up in, it was so small. And I was put into a group of girls that became my girls. They were it. And I still have a lot of those friendships, which I'm really grateful for. But I know that so many people, one of the biggest things that I hear from the clients that I work with is that they feel it's so challenging to manifest friends as an adult, whereas as kids, you're just put in essentially your friend group and you don't really have an option of who it is or what you're going to do.
Yeah. Tal, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think friendship is so interesting because I agree with you, Kat. When you're a kid, we're also so open and willing to be friends with everyone. And so I feel like growing up, I was friends with everybody. I liked everyone. I wanted to play. I wanted to try it all. I am a manifesting generator, as we know. So
Mhm.
bopping around to all the different things. But I definitely know for me, as I got older, I really fell into seeking out the friends that I thought I should have
Mm,
rather than the friends that I truly needed. And so I think for a lot of my life, I was trying to pretend to be something I wasn't. I joined a sorority in college, for example, and had a lot of friends who we just did not have the same interests. And so it took me a lot of coming home to myself, almost going back to that little girl inside of me who just played with the kids she wanted to play with because they were fun and loving and wonderful. And it's been a lot of re-looking at friendships in my life and really connecting with the people like both of you who actually just seeing your face makes my soul sing. And I think I know for me, at least for maybe a decade of my life, that wasn't the caliber of friendship I was looking for. It was more the drinking, let's go out, let's flirt with boys, LOL, and all of these different things, and just how much less fulfilling that was for me than finding the people who I couldn't just go out with on a Friday night, but it's like, let's get a Saturday morning tea and really talk about like, what are you loving these days? What's helping you grow? What is helping you learn? And finding that now has been so much more fulfilling than any other friendships in my life.
Mm. Yeah, that was beautiful. So I grew up in a tiny little Texas town with two younger brothers. So I think the cool thing about siblings is you have your own little best friend group that you grow up with, that you're growing and changing and diversifying yourself with. But I was the oldest, so I also kind of had this like paternal layer on top. I was like babysitting, I was taking care of my brothers. And I grew up kind of a dork, loves. Like I was obsessed with like funny faces. I love Lucy. I love making voices. I love Barney not because of really the aesthetics of it and what was happening. I just was obsessed with the voices and then would try to do them all day long. So think about all that energy and like a 7-year-old on a playground, just like it was nonsense. But I realized when I was really young that I loved sharing these voices and silliness. I realized I loved telling stories and like making funny voices and making people laugh. And that I think that kind of has gone everywhere. I love to make adults laugh when I was younger too. I was really big on making people smile. And naturally, I think I became a theater person because of that. But I think what changed for me was when I moved to New York City and started working in the theater industry, among other wild industries to work here. And expectations are so high, not only for yourself, but everybody else around. So I found myself, instead of trying to make people happy and joyous because I like making silly faces, I was trying to make everybody comfortable.
mm,
So I can kind of be left alone with my own queerness and my own curiosities, and this like high energy self might not get understood and might not get seen for what I could truly be. But I think as I like think back on my younger self, what I connect with the most, what energizes me, and what I think I was uniting with when I was young as a soul was making people smile, like lifting spirits just a little bit. Maybe even very young AJ trying to get vibrations a little bit higher. Does that kind of answer your question, Kat?
absolutely, 100%. And the thought that just came to my mind as both of you were speaking is like, think about little AJ, Tal, and Cat on the playground together.
Ugh,
That's all I can think
but
of. That's all I
pour
can
it
think
up.
of.
That is us now, just as adults. Like we are little toddlers in adult bodies, like running around making silly faces, playing together.
Superpowers, like, and trying new things out and like race it to the end. Like, it's so great.
Literally, I was like, as soon as I said that, I was like, wait, that's us now. Like that's literally, and I think it's so cool. One of the things that I really resonate, Tal, is the fact that like as I grew up, I also sought out the friends that I thought I needed to be friends with, and like that being like who was gonna make me look cooler, who was gonna make me look richer, like who is gonna make me look like what I thought I needed as approval from like the world, when in reality all I needed was approval from myself. And I know for like both of you, like this journey that we've all been on of like coming back home to ourselves, like the moment I met both of you, I was like there's this unapologetic expression within both of you that was like, oh, I already feel safe with them.
because I feel as though there hasn't, I mean, there's been many of moments like that in my life, but being able to move here to New York City, I was doing the same thing of like, who do I need to be friends with to get into the rooms that I want to get into? Like, what do I need to like essentially like manipulate and get myself into the positions that I wanted, as opposed to trusting the fact that like me owning and honoring my heart is actually like what attracts the people who are meant for me and the opportunities that are meant for me. And as soon as I made that shift, it's like y'all showed up in my life pretty quick after that.
Mm.
100%.
I feel, yeah, so much of like in New York City, the basic networking and the how to meet somebody quick, because we're all doing so much. Um, the number one question is like, what do you do? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We immediately size each other up and try to see like where in your New York journey are you succeeding, or like who do you know, or what places do you like to eat, and those are interesting questions, sure, but I think like a far more interesting and layered and soul fulfilling question is like, so where's your favorite place to get a pastry? Or like, how are you feeling today? Or tell me a little bit more about that. There's like a depth that I think so many of us are craving. And when you're authentic with yourself and when you're honest with yourself and you're confident and courageous in who you are, I think that reflects out. And then
Mhm.
we all kind of magnetize each other a little bit more. Because you're so right, Kat. It was so synchronistic of how we all kind of landed in each other's lives. And even how me and Tal got much closer over the past year and change. It's really special.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for the listeners, so basically, I went to a breathwork class that AJ was hosting and facilitating. And afterwards, I was really intimidated to talk to you. So I just asked you for your playlist. I was like, "Hey, can I have that playlist?" And it was literally so I could follow you on Instagram. And then from there, like we ended up at a mutual connections event and party, and like kind of loved on each other there, but I still was really intimidated by you. And then you invited me to a party in Central Park, and Tal was there. And I almost didn't show up that day because I had already been out and about in the world. And I was like, okay, I'm tired. But I was like, something is telling me go to this party. Like, go to this
What were
party and
you
get to know AJ
intimidated
better.
by? Tell me.
How authentic you are.
Yeah.
Like this, just like this, like you radiate like the most like authentically me energy. And like by me, I mean you. Like authentically you energy that I've ever seen anybody embody. And then it's like I sat down next to Tal and she has her purple on with her purple like eyeshadow and like all her bracelets.
Her
And
glasses,
like,
her lollipop, all her bracelets.
yes. And I was like, oh my God, like AJ attracts more people who are exactly like this authentically them expression. And I was like, oh, okay, like there's something to this. Like
It's a
there's something in
reflection.
this.
It's a reflection. That's all I can say is it's just what you are giving out that is coming back to you in this form with this appetite and this taste and this silly history. Because I think once me and Tal found each other too, there was like oh wait, we're on the same field. We were in different places of work and we were doing different things in our life, but we needed each other's vibrancy and each other's energy that way and kind of found each other that way. It was so cool how natural this friendship kind of just opened and was too,
Yeah.
with so much candor, honesty, and authenticity as like the foundation of what it was, and stresslessness.
Yeah.
Totally. But even to say that, like I met AJ almost 2 years ago now. I was a
Hmm.
completely different person then. And I know, Kat, exactly what you mean about feeling intimidated by it, but also inspired by it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think at first, AJ, I was like, oh, I would never ask AJ to hang out outside of breathwork classes because, and I genuinely think it was because I knew I wasn't showing up as my full enough self yet. And it was like I had work to do, layers to shed, this need of approval to shed because I was like, AJ's not gonna, like he's gonna see right through that. And so many people do, but I agree with you. It's a reflection as I started to shed those needs of being accepted, my insecurities that I was projecting out and started just embracing my full self. Then that intimidation went away and finding people like both of you. It's like every day I meet new people. Like I just made a friend at the coffee shop this morning, it's like you just find these humans when you're being your authentic self because we can see each other. And I know that's been such a lesson for me. It wasn't that those people weren't out there a few years ago. It's that they couldn't see me. I had a mask on. I had this
Mm.
busyness, this energy that was repelling people. And by letting those guards down, it's like oh, I can breathe. And now everyone wants to come breathe with me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super interesting with that towel. Something that came up for me because I relate so much to it. And like the biggest shift for me, I'd say, especially in the past like year and a half, I'd say like everything changed for me. So I went to England for a few months back in 2022. I went for like 5 months to England. And when I came back to New York, I was like, okay, I did my first chapter of New York, and that first chapter of New York was like partying and like drinking in a way that didn't feel good to me, and trying to like make friends with people that I feel like I was needing to be friends with to get into the rooms that I wanted to get in with, whatnot. When I came back, I was like, okay, I'm sober now. Like I'm relearning cat. Like I'm relearning what it's like to socialize as a 20, I think I was either 26 or 27 at the time, 26, about to be 27, for the first time as like an adult. I'm actually learning who Kat is, independent of substances and independent of like all of these things that I've told myself that I need to do and have and be in order to be like the person that I wanted, and like literally just showing up as me. And the biggest shift was like I let go of the social constructs of like what the world says we can and cannot have within friendships, where it's like you said, AJ was your breathwork teacher. So therefore it's kind of like this, like, oh, I can't ask my teacher to hang out. Or one of my best friends in the city is a 52-year-old British man who's married and has 2 children. And like the world tells us that like a 27-year-old girl shouldn't be friends with a 52-year-old married man. And it's like, why the fuck not?
What are these
I
comments?
completely.
What are these rules? We're just making them up. The
We're
society is
just
just
making it up.
making them up.
Yeah, as a theater kid, like I kind of define and put everything on the neutral of how stage dynamics work. And I think it's kind of interesting and cool to think that the word personality comes from the Greek word persona, which means mask. Like the sense of self that we work so hard to create ourselves to be, our traditions, our ideas about ourselves, other people's ideas about ourselves, what we like to wear, who we are, is in fact a mask that we wear and present in different places. And I don't think anybody's two-faced or multiple personality in this space, and what we're trying to say, but I think we have a mask that we wear when we're at work. We have a mask that we wear when we're at the gym. We have a mask that we wear when we go back to see our families during the holidays. So, what and who is the person without the mask? Who gets to take off all the mask, and who is there beyond all of that? In the theater tradition, I love the green room because that's the space where everybody's taking off their makeup, taking off their costumes, and you kind of like shake off that show and get to kind of be just neutral and check on yourselves and maybe go over your lines and hydrate. And I've kind of thought that my friends and the people I love are the people I get to take off my mask around, who I get to be in that green room. And the last thing I'll connect it with, the heart chakra is usually given the color green. And when we see green, not only does it bring healing energy into our body, that greenness feels like nurturing and harmony and holding all things together. So the idea that we could go into this green space with each other of taking off the mask, taking off the expectations, taking off the lines that we all have kind of put ourselves under or have been put under, and just be that free self of all potential and all possibility that's inside. Like so much teaching about how to ascend and how to become free has been an expectation to bring yourself to. I think the work that we love and what we try to share, even which with each other, is a possibility to like go into versus an expectation to like rise to. And I think that's why I keep coming back for more. I think that's why I keep on asking you guys for tea, because I think you guys see me in my possibility and even more beyond. And us harmonizing on trying to make those possibilities real, not only help us smile a little bit more, but just help us succeed and strengthen the work that we love so much more too.
Absolutely, 100%. And just a little side note for the listeners, usually when all of us are talking, we're like screaming and awing at each other, but on Zoom we like can't because it cancels the sound out. But it's like so hard for me right now to not be like, like all of these noises, what you're saying. But it's so true. And I love what you said, AJ, is like having people that, like, in a sense, like hold each other to a standard, but it's not a standard of like rise to the occasion. It's like a standard of continue to go inward, like continue to know yourself, continue to
Yeah.
love yourself, continue to honor yourself, continue to show up in that energy. Because like you said, when you do, that's a mirror to what I get to do. I know that both of you
Mm-hmm.
guys know Vivi, and I was with Vivi the other night. Vivi's another soul friend that will also be on the podcast at some point for the listeners. But I was with Vivi the other night, and I was telling her how my mom just like simply adores her and like sees her as an angel for me. And I was like, I couldn't do this without you. Like, I couldn't be here. I couldn't be in New York without you. And she's like, yeah, you could. I was like, she's like, no, like, I bring out the angel in you. I'm not your angel. Like, I bring out the angel in you.
Wow.
And that's the same for like what you're saying is like us being mirrors to each other, is like you feeling that expansion, that potential, the ideas, the creation that like you are like you've always seen as possible, but you're seeing even more so as possible. It's like that's not because like me and Tal hype you up. It's because we like are a mirror to the potential within you. You see it within
Yeah.
us, and we mirror it right back to you, and you do the same for me.
100%.
Thank
I was going
you.
to underline that too. I think what you said, AJ, about like the friends I want to have in my life are people who see the possibilities within me and help amplify them. And I do that back. And I think every time the three of us are together, we'll have these conversations where Kat will maybe say something that sounds slightly like a limiting belief. And AJ and I are like, girl, are you kidding? You know, and all these things. And then we all do
Uh-huh.
it forth. And the number of times I'm giving advice to one of the two of you. And then as I'm saying it, I'm like, okay, Tal, if you believe this about them, you also need to believe this about yourself. And then you give that back to me. It's like we keep expanding each other's possibilities because we believe so deeply in them for one another, but that also helps us do it for ourselves. That's like the most powerful friendship experience I hope that everyone listening gets to have in their friendships, because it blows me away every day.
Because the tools that we find stop just being this tools for our own self-development that's going to help us rise above the top to be the better coach and to be, and to get more followers and to get more it's never been about that. It's like I have something I want to share and I'm so excited to share it so we can advance and do this all together. That's another level of making things happen here, in at least in New York City, where so much is based off of like going and getting and networking and producing and making your damn dreams come true. Like there's a tide of productivity that you either jump in and ride the waves with, however high and low it may get, or you get trampled over and you don't feel like you're a real part of it. I think this is different because it's kind of like a hive mentality. There's a unified mind to make this hive better, to make this community better, to make this love between us better, but to ultimately make our communities and the people we touch and the people we share this with to make things a little bit easier for themselves too. I think everybody won. Everybody's already won. There's no more competition. You'd already be, now we get to just celebrate each other's wins and our mutual wins and how that makes things easier for everybody. Yeah, it's another layer of friendship that I'm so really grateful to have.
Absolutely. No competition within this. And something that came up for me as both of you were talking is I remember at the beginning of our friendships, and honestly still sometimes, where I look at both of you and I'm like, oh my God, they're so magical. Like literally like magic manifested in the human form. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, if there is this hive mentality, like there's this like just synergy between all of us, it's like, oh, Kat, you're also that magical. Like,
Yeah.
and I know there's things that I say sometimes that like both of you look at me like as if I just like unlocked some sort of code inside of you. And I'm always like, huh, like that was cool. That was interesting. But it's really this whole concept of what we're talking about. It's like, oh, of course, like of course, if these are the people that are in my life. And I think that that's like one thing for the listeners to really reflect on is like, are you obsessed with the company that you keep? And if you are
Mm-hmm.
not, then looking at like, okay, what are you not obsessed about within yourself? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
reflection, it's just this mirror. And over the past like year or so, like I've become obsessed with myself, not in like a egotistic, like, oh my God, I'm the best person on planet Earth, but like, oh, I just like, I love myself. I love my life. I love looking in the mirror and seeing the woman that I am and that I'm becoming. And like, that's the first time in my life that I can ever actually say that. And I attribute so much of it to the fact that like I've given myself permission to like let my mask down, let my wall down, not only with myself, but like also with people. One of the biggest things I really recognized over this past weekend going to that 3-day long personal development workshop was like there's been this part of me that I have like opened myself up so much more than I ever have in the past to be vulnerable and like actually let people see me. And there's still so much room for people to see me deeper. And for the first time in my life, I feel safe to let people see me deeper. Like having both of you in my life where it's like, oh, I actually feel safe like sharing the nitty gritty, like not so fun, always details, because both of you bring light to it and hold space in a way that's like, oh, okay, like I'm safe to do this.
And a permission to be whatever you are on that particular day. In my tradition, we use a lot of sort of animal symbology, and the snake is one aspect of the self that we all have. Somebody who's just trying to survive, just trying to make it happen. But what's great about the snake is they get to shed their skin. They're constantly evolving, they're constantly shedding off things that no longer serve. And I feel like so often we get stuck in like, this is my current model, this is what I'm supposed to be, this is how things work, and not allowing ourselves to update and change. And maybe even sometimes having friendships can feel in conflict with that. As you keep evolving, as you keep ascending, as you keep on learning more and more, and as creating more and more, you keep changing too. And things get awkward, vibrations shift. You used to love hanging out at that place from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. in the morning, and now you've got this other thing and these other people that you want to spend a little bit more time with. Oh, things are starting to change within me. There's certain kinds of love that open up enough space for you to constantly change and constantly evolve and constantly try out new things. And see how those things shift. Like, weren't we giggling about your shift from a side part into a middle part and that identity shift that comes with that too?
A huge identity shift.
I look at videos of Kat now with her side part, and I'm like, who is that? I don't know that person.
Ooh, that person.
I don't know her either. She was dope as fuck. She got me to hear, but like middle part Cat is like, oh, like this is it right now. Like this is the next level. But it's so true, AJ. Like this ever evolving self, and that's something that I've experienced. Is like I wouldn't say I've lost friends, but it's like I've released friends along the way. Like there's been friends that haven't come with me. And that's not because they haven't showered me with love and didn't give me exactly what I needed. And not in like a you need to give me this in order to be a part of my life, but like vibrationally like gave me what I needed during that period of my life, but just don't anymore. And that's been a really interesting part of this journey as well.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And that's something that has come up on so many client calls of mine recently. And just something I want to reaffirm to anyone listening too, that as you grow and you change, it's okay to release those past friends, and you don't need to do it with negativity in your heart. Like I look at people who were in my life before who no longer are. And to Kat's point with like side part Kat, we still love her. I still love those people and what we had then. And I hope that in the future we reconnect on a deeper level, but we have different paths and different things that happen, and that's okay. And giving yourself permission to change and evolve and love up close, love afar. We even say that AJ and I, like over our friendship for the last couple of years, we've, like gotten closer and further, kind of things evolve and move just like, the tide, and letting yourself trust that what is working today might change for tomorrow. And that's okay. Keep growing, keep evolving, keep loving first and foremost, and everything else will fall into place as it's meant to, when it's meant to.
Yeah, so much of the shamanic tradition and you know what I mean, these early earth witches who were using the seasons and the cycles to make magical things happen, had this full affirmation within the self that everything was cyclical, everything is turning, things maybe don't repeat, but they rhyme with different occurrences, and knowing those cycles and knowing those seasons and recognizing that there is a natural rise and fall to just about everything gives you a great sense of affirmation. And if you can also bring that to your relationships, that everything has its bright, bright, bright spring, you know what I mean? It's vibrant summer, maybe something where it goes down a little bit, and then maybe something where there's some darkness or not the same amount of light as there used to be. But just like the seasons and the cycles, they always have a way of coming up and down. To bring the theater tradition back, like when we're working on a production of Hairspray, you give 6 week of your attention to making this production the best thing you possibly can. You give it all the energy you can. You learn these lines, you learn these blocking, you learn these costumes, you learn your friends' lines and costumes. You give everything to it, and you build these deep special relationships with these individuals because you're spending so much time, and your attention and intention is mutual on the same goal. And then after the show is over, and at least the theater tradition I come from, you do something called strike. You completely demolish the set, you get rid of the costumes, you paint the set black, and you pretend like the production was never there to give the next show a free and ample space to do what they want to do. So very naturally, in my sense of self, there's these seasons, these cycles, these productions, and these performances that we get to collaborate on together in our friendships, in our relationships, and these different sort of heightened experiences that we have in life naturally. And if I can open that up to, you know what I mean, this new idea or this new season or this new show I get to be a part of that will have its big opening night and its big closing, and then ultimately maybe a little bit of time in between having the next one, it A, frees me to not hold on so tightly, and B, helps me to intention and give even more presence and even more of myself to make it even more valuable, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, 100%. What came up for me as you were saying that, AJ, is Tal and I went on a walk down the West Side Highway one time, and I was sharing with her just about like different friendships that weren't feeling the way that they did in the past, and that at one point it was like giving it my all. It was that production. It was like what you said, and that friendships. One of the things Tal brought to me is like, have you like rewritten or relooked at your friendship contract with this person? And it's not like, okay, we're sitting down and we're actually like scripting it out, writing out a contract like you would a legal document, but it's like, what is the friendship contract that you once had? And that contract's no longer serving you. So like permission to rewrite the contract.
Wow.
And it doesn't mean that like a friendship has to like be again lost or released unless that's what actually feels best and supportive. But it's like just rewriting that contract with so much honesty of like, hey, our old dynamic doesn't work for me anymore. And I still love you. I still appreciate you. I still want you in my life because you mean the world to me. But like, how can we rewrite this contract in a way that feels more supportive? And that's been a big journey that I've been on recently, is like rewriting some of those old contracts, and not only with friends, but like also with myself, because just like we've been talking about, it's like our friendships are a mirror to what's going on the inside. And I think that it's so interesting. I think about this all the time, especially with the work that I do, that we're so conditioned to believe that like once we like become adults, like that's who we are. Like that's like that it's static. That's who we are, and that it's not fluid, that it doesn't change. And I remember even coming back from like Christmas to like second week of January and seeing AJ for the first time and being like, who I was last time I saw you, completely different person. You're like, AJ that you last saw is a completely different AJ. I'm like, thank goodness. Like
I keep
it's ever evolving.
changing. I
Yes.
keep on changing. Like, and it keeps on shifting. And that can be really difficult for people, especially when so many of us have created our sense of value and sense of worth based off of our identities, maybe even our ego. And that kind of sucks when you learn new things and your ego shifts. That kind of sucks when you used to love purple and now you're feeling like burnt orange a little bit more. Well, what am I supposed to do with all these purple clothing? You share them and then you change you know what I mean? We evolve and we shift. And getting comfortable with that is a superpower. It's adaptability. It's resilience. It's embracing a challenge rather than things being hard. It's like, oh, okay, this challenge requires new tools. I'm gonna have to walk this way. I'm gonna have to call Tal and AJ and have a conversation with them and update my programming a little bit. I'm gonna have to breathe a little bit. I'm gonna have to program myself on this new moon. You know what I mean? It's embracing that change and embracing that shift and embracing these new tools and these new masks we get to wear as an opportunity, rather than something to be frustrated by or a loss whenever that kind of shifts and evolves. I think you guys keep on changing too. I think it's also probably notable and important to say it seems like all of us are like shifting, maybe towards positivity, maybe towards openness, but more than anything, like intentional. I think like everybody, at least that I've been talking to, seems to be going in a little deeper. Have you guys noticed that?
100%. 100%. I agree. And I think it's like when both of you are talking about this, I'm like, what a beautiful way to live, though, to get to change every day. And how wonderful that I get to fall in love with Kat and AJ, a new version of them every time I get to see them. Like, ooh, it makes me emotional just saying what a beautiful thing we get to do as humans. And I think you're right. We've been so conditioned and programmed to like figure out who you are and then be consistent with that. But what freedom and permission to say, no, I'm going to become a new person every single day. And everyone in my life is going to get to re-fall in love with a new version of Tal every day. How beautiful and
Mm.
exciting and rich and vibrant of a life that is.
Okay, so I have a question for both of you. For somebody who's listening that's like, okay, yeah, all that's well and great, but like that's fucking intimidating. Like to never know what I'm getting from my friend or to never know like the version of my friend who's showing up. Like how have both of you been able to see like that openness for more growth, more love, more understanding within your friendships?
Mm. Child, do you want to go first?
Yeah, again, I would say, I mean, the first thing that comes up to me, it almost goes back to that like radical candor and the friendship contracts, I think, Kat. And for me, it has just been so much honesty with everyone and communication. I think communication is the most important thing to me in any relationship, romantic, platonic, professional, it doesn't matter. And so showing up every day and being able to communicate. And I think that's so important. Like the reason we get hurt when we lose friends is when we don't understand it, is when we don't have a conversation about it. That's why it's painful. But when you can lovingly embrace someone and clearly say, hey, here's who I'm showing up as today. Does this work for you? Maybe it doesn't work for you today, and that's okay. I love you and I'll see you again in the future. And I think communication and then trust, like trusting the people around you are doing what's best for them and trusting that you're going to keep doing what's best for you and just like flowing with it. I don't know. Does that answer your question? I'm not even sure, but like I think honesty and trust have been the core of the most beautiful experiences of my life and what I
Mm.
take with everything. And being, like again, I'll just say with that friendship contract thing, really being loving when you have that conversation and just saying, even to give a specific example, like I've had friends where I say, hey, I know we used to text every day and keep up with each other's lives every day. Personally, I just don't have the capacity for that anymore. I'm trying not to text anyone anymore. Texting is just exhausting me being on my phone, but being really clear with people. So then as we shift and evolve, nobody's confused. We all understand. And that can feel really scary. I know for me, a few years ago, I would have been so scared to have that conversation. And now everyone in my life is so appreciative when I do because we're all on the same page and we can keep growing together with that trust and that love.
Mm.
Mm,
Yeah,
so
I feel you. I feel you. And I think for me recently, what's helped with that communication aspect that you're talking about is like embracing the whoops, like, oops, that's not what I meant. Or can I say something wrong so we can try to say it right together? Or giving yourself permission to make your attempt to communicate sloppy, maybe inconsistent, or a trial, because that works a little bit better than keeping it quiet and keeping it inside. I've also, at least in my practice, and I think we've shared this together, kind of have reduced emotions down to just two emotions. I really, really, really think there's only two: love or fear. And every other emotion is a variance or a fractal off of those two core emotions. So whenever there's some dissonance or some dis-ease or there's not a lot of harmony going on in a relationship, it's obvious that there's someone who might be feeling some element of fear rather than the expansive nature and space of love. So I like to start with myself. Where am I feeling a little triggered? Where am I feeling a little scared? Where am I feeling at risk of abandonment? Where am I feeling at risk of not being heard? Where am I feeling less powerful? Where do I feel like my power is being taken away? Where do I feel like my boundaries have been crossed? Where am I scared? If I can start there, then I'm at least in control of this ship. And then when I communicate, it won't be as difficult. I think it's also important, and Tal might be able to talk about this a little bit more, to remember to possibly reduce everything to energy. Everything is just energy. Everything is moving. Everything is shaking. Everything is dancing. And if that is the case, then in any given moment, you're either reacting, repressing, or responding to that energy. Some of us are such in a frequency field of just reacting to everything that comes our way because a lot of fear might be built up. And some of us might have had so much fear that the easiest way to respond to all that energy is to repress and to keep your energy in. I think a very active and honest way of not only working with yourself, but working with others is finding every opportunity you can to respond. And at least for me, the fastest way to get into that response field is to be in your breath, to go just a little bit slower, to decrease your heart rate just a little bit, maybe smile a little bit more when you're speaking, which gets us an opportunity to be able to be in flow when obstacles come through, rather than to feel like we have to force anything or fight it when it comes in. Did that answer your question, Kat?
Absolutely. 100%. And one thing I wanted to add to what both of you said, what came up for me is really practicing training and building this muscle of not taking things personally. Because it's never about you. It's never about you. Even if somebody is saying something is about you, it's never about you. It's about their interpretation, their perception, their like actual experience of you. That's still about them. So it's like really taking this it being personal thing out of the equation and really just bringing it back to like, okay, how do I feel in this experience? And if I was to not make it about me, like how would I actually feel about this thing?
Ooh, I have a teacher who calls, well, it's called rule number 6, and it's a shorthand that you can give your friends and your family. There's apparently this story about this guy who worked at the UN, and he had been there for a long time, and he worked in diplomacy and reducing, conflict between people. And young interns would come into his office just being like, I can't believe this country's doing this, and they won't say yes to this. And he would go, ooh, rule number 6. And that intern would roll their shoulders back and walk out gently. And then somebody else would be like, I can't believe we lost the money on this, and they're not connecting on this, and why we should have more money on it. Everybody was just very on fire, and he would say, rule number 6. And they would kind of have to shake off. And there was all these other ambassadors who were like, what are you doing in that office? Rule number 6 is don't take things so personally. And then what they would ask inevitably was like, what are the other rules? And he would say, there are no other rules. The idea is this is a short, simple way of reminding not only yourself, but others, wait a second. You might be giving way too much of your energy into this self-created challenge. So I always try to remember that to myself. Rule number 6, wait, where are you taking it even further? I even think about, in the theater tradition, method acting. Are you taking your method acting into how you make your coffee and when you go into the grocery store? Is it getting too much? Is everything too much? Wait a second. Rule number 6, where can we stop taking things so personally? Where can we make some more space to evolve and share energy?
So fucking powerful.
And also with that, like the way I ask myself a lot too is like, what are the stories I'm telling right now? And I think with that, like I can tell 1,000 stories about why I think someone's doing something or blah, blah, blah. And then asking myself, okay, Tal, but what stories do we actually know to be true? What stories are you making up that are actually making you upset? How are you taking this personally? And how can you, I practice every day being like, all right, what are 4 other stories I could tell myself right now that actually are different, and challenging myself to see that. And so I think that's helped me just as a tool to take it less personally, because it's like, okay, maybe she cut me off in traffic, not because she hates me, but maybe she, has a family member who's sick, who she's trying to go see, or she has a really important interview she's rushing to, or whatever it is. How can you tell some alternate stories that are less personal and more kind and loving and compassionate, both to yourself, but also to the other person?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've been playing along with the journal prompt. What if the opposite were true? If I can create all of these scenarios, then maybe even for 30 seconds, I can create a scenario where the exact opposite thing happened, no matter what. And I play with that idea for a little while, and then it takes away the steam from the current reality that I might be overthinking a little bit. You know what I mean?
100%. And it's also like, we create our realities. So like you giving yourself the opportunity to create that shift is actually the thing that could be creating that shift. The other thing, Tal, with what you were saying with that tool, what I've been doing recently, what I've been challenging myself recently is like to tell the person what story I've been creating. It's like, hey, I don't know that this is true, but by you not responding to this text message, or based off of this past experience and what I have seen, I'm creating this story in my head right now. And instead of being in my head about it, I'm sharing it with you, because then it gives us the opportunity to like disprove it together, as well as like build that trust in the fact that like I'm not just going to tell you what you want to hear, like I'm going to tell you what's honest. And that's such a trust building exercise, as opposed to like keeping that in, keeping that in, keeping that in. Like AJ was saying, it's like we either react to it, repress it, or respond to it. It's like a lot of the times when we keep these things in within our relationship dynamics, we repress it, we repress it, we repress it, we repress it, until it's like if it was this water bottle, we shove it full of stuff and it gets to the point where there's nothing left that you can put in this water bottle and it starts exploding. It's like that's when there's those like really, really big, quote unquote big, but like kind of explosive reactions to things that people end up having within their relationships. If you never allowed yourself to get to the point where you were shoving shit down, you were repressing those things, then there wouldn't be these like big conflict moments within relationship dynamics, at least in my experience of it.
100%. One of the big things I've been saying lately is that the kindest thing I can do in my relationships is make sure they understand the reality I'm currently living in. So I do that with my girlfriend all the time. I'm like, I want you to have the most information about where my thoughts are going, the stories I'm telling myself, etc., because otherwise we're living in two different realities. And that's true with friendships too, right? It's like if I'm sitting here resenting you for all these things, but you have no idea, then when that water bottle explodes, Kat's like, whoa, I didn't even know any of this was happening. How much kinder would it be for Kat if I don't explode, but rather I invite her in and update her on, here's the stories I'm telling, here's the reality I'm starting to create in my head. Let's reconstruct that reality together, because one, it's probably false, and two, it's way kinder for both of us to be able to share that experience.
I think it's so important to think about the somatic aspect of this as well. What these ideas, what these programs, what these stories that we tell ourselves do to our nervous system. Think about that. If you are over processing a situation where we don't know what to say, or we don't know what to feel, or we're scared to say really what we're feeling, that's producing cortisol and adrenaline in the body. If you're sitting at work and you can't have anywhere to place it, it's becoming a poisonous chemical within your body that's supposed to help you get up and run away from a tiger. It's now just festering and boiling and bubbling. So strictly on a physiological basis, that expression of how you're feeling, whether it's through writing, whether it's through sharing it with the person you love, whether it's with sharing it with your hive and your community, so you can just have some space to rehearse it and try it out, it frees everybody. The truth sets everybody free. And the truth is the last man standing. I mean, it's not the sad news, it's the reality. Not many people are going to make it out of this alive, but what will exist and what will go beyond anyone who was ever here is what actually happened. So we might as well start now. We might as well be clear with each other now, so we can enjoy this a little bit more, so we can play a little bit more.
Absolutely. 100%. I feel like this entire conversation, the theme that just keeps on coming up for me is like, this is just an invitation to meet yourself deeper. This is an invitation to understand your true wants, your true needs, your true tendencies, so that you can bring those to the table for other people. Because I think ultimately at the end of the day, when we talk about manifestation and like manifesting your soul friends, it's not so much like getting your journal out and like saying, okay, universe, like I'm putting in my shopping list for the friends that I want to manifest in my life. It's like, okay, universe, like I want to get to know myself deeper so that I can show up unapologetically as myself, because that naturally helps me magnetize what I want into my life.
Then the friends are just a delicious byproduct. Sprinkles on a Sunday you're making for yourself. A side effect of you taking care of you is the people around you start getting so cool, because that energy can only magnetize something that's on the same frequency. You don't have to chase anymore. You don't have to row anymore. You might just be able to like sail and like float and watch as life starts to happen for you instead of from you. It's wildly magical.
Totally. You
Yeah.
start to take a trip in the lazy river, as opposed
The
to like
lazy
trying to
river.
swim upstream in like a
Yeah.
Colorado like rapid river that is coming down in the spring after all of the snow melt. It's like we're no longer in that like really rugged territory of trying to make it happen. It more so is just like, okay, when I embrace and accept myself and go inwards to connect deeper to my higher self and who I am at my core. And we talk about this all the time. It's just that younger version of yourself actually amplified as this older version of yourself. But when that happens, it's like, oh yeah, life just starts to turn into this lazy river where you start to meet those things that you want and those things that are meant for you and always have been meant for you.
I'm literally picturing us like in a lazy river, almost a video game, where then, yeah, as you're flowing in this lazy river, you start getting friends that just drop in little rafts next to you and you're flowing down together. But yes, it's like, how can you authentically go inward? What are the truths about you? And once you start showing up as those, other people will naturally come because it's inevitable. But you'll be so happy. Like I just was thinking about that day I got to meet Kat. Truly, y'all, it was the most beautiful sunny day in Central Park. But like, had I not met Kat, I still would have had a gorgeous day because I was just vibing and living. But then I got to meet my very best soul friend, right? And so it's like, just be yourself, vibe on yourself, love yourself, find those things, show your truths, feel comfortable to be vulnerable and show those truths. And that's how those people will come. I agree, Kat. It's not a laundry list. It's not like I was sitting that morning being like, I'd love to meet a manifestation coach who helps me, like inspires me and helps me live my dreams. No, I was just like, I want to have a beautiful day and feel so radically and authentically like me. And then this angel walks into my life.
Yeah, I've been trying to like simplify how we do a lot of this work, and I think I've come to understand so much of our delays in making stuff happen, or our pains that we're holding on to, or that one thing that's stopping us from like sharing that huge truth, or that big piece of wisdom, or that art or creativity you want to share, is the feeling of I can't. I can't because I'm grieving. I can't because my body isn't the right way. I can't because my social circumstances haven't worked. I can't because I don't know enough, or I don't have enough money. And the coolest thing you can do for yourself is to flip the hand and give yourself a thumbs up to I can. And like, we can call it selfishness. I think it's self-awareness. I think it's a combination of I cans enough that bring you so much confidence and courage in yourself and so much autonomy that you begin to live more authentically into your truth and into your dharma, into what kind of, I don't know, buzzes you a little bit more. And when so many I cans come together, it becomes we can. Like, we all start doing it together, and we use that mutual autonomy to make really magical things happen. And at least with the breathwork classes that I've been able to share, and even the times that we're sitting together having tea, I'm sure you guys feel it, this like unified consciousness, this circle of intention, this portal that we create of, at least in this case, three friends who are mutually all working and pushing towards more freedom and more manifestation when we can. It's almost like we start to co-harmonize and co-manifest together. I don't, have y'all felt that before?
Yeah, especially with this.
That's why community is so important, and like having those people, because it amplifies everything. It amplifies what you think is possible for yourself. Again, kind of going back to what we were saying at the beginning, but having those people, nothing compares to it.
Yeah. And there was I take everything within the lens of meditation, because that was kind of my gateway drug that got me into the breath work and into talking even this kind of way. And a very important meditation teacher called Mahesh Yogi, he had this theory that if just 1% of a population started meditating, you could change the social dynamics of that space. And he believed that they could reduce crime if the intention was set among meditators to continue to see a reality where things are more calm, more peaceful, but ultimately the intention for crime to reduce. And within just a few weeks, crime reduced about 16%. And everybody was like, oh, that was a fluke. That was just, you know what I mean? That was something magical, whimsical, or just a moment. They kept on repeating the study and it kept on happening. That was 50 years ago. They keep on doing it. There is something special that happens when the group of individuals have a mutual intention, whether that's for confidence for the space, whether that's to be silly, whether that's to like jam out to a song together. When we harmonize that energy together, really radical things happen. So think about that for the good, and how much light and love can be created when we're all intentioning good. Think about that also on the opposite effect, when you are in that dynamic of everything sucks, I really can't get what I want, this world isn't working for me. That creates another cohesion field of that kind of energy as well. So these daily things you can do, like matcha, like teas, like trying things out with each other to raise those vibrations, are of course so fulfilling for yourself and keep you kind of coasting at that higher flow level. But as we've been saying, it ultimately will create a community around you of people who are feeling and wanting the same kind of things. And when that energy starts to work together, some pretty powerful things happening, like running into Kat on the street twice. You know what I mean? Like very, very convenient times where Tal just happens to be around or just happens to be posting something that I'm thinking about at that moment. These synchronicities start to just happen as delicious experiences of life rather than something magical that randomly happens. I just live in a manifested sort of synchronistic state with you guys.
Literally talk about that. So the next question I was going to ask you guys was, what was your gateway drug into all of this? And then you said, my gateway drug into this was meditation, because I was going to say, like, what was that a shift for you guys to get to the place? And it's like,
and I
but
read it, I pulled it.
totally, this is the perfect example of that, is like the fact that when there is what AJ just said, like this mutual intention, this mutual like contract understanding of like, okay, like this is the energy that we're bringing to the table, this is the kind of friendship, the kind of community that we desire to build, then that's what naturally happens. And that happens all the time within our breathwork classes as well. It's like, yeah. Oh, okay, like I say something on my Instagram story about like growing the garden and having butterflies come into it, and then the next class you're like, plant those seeds inside of yourself so that you can grow your flowers and have this abundance and these butterflies manifest into your life. It's like, none of this happens by accident. Like this is
it's all a reflection.
Yeah, all happening on purpose. But okay, so Tal, what was your gateway drug into this?
I mean, so many things. I would say probably the first one. Honestly, this is a little weird of an answer, but when I realized I was gay and I had been denying that my whole life, it was such a shattering. So for those of you who are listening to this, when I was 28, I woke up one day in bed with a woman, and it was the first time I admitted that I had been gay in my entire life. And it was just this forced but beautiful radical awakening of like, who am I and what have I been hiding, and how not looking at it as that as a negative thing, but an opportunity to say like, whoa, what else didn't I know about myself? This is so fun and exciting. I get to explore. And then finding, for me, of course, human design. I also think finding AJ and breath work, like all these openings, but realizing that life wasn't exactly what I thought it was, and giving myself permission to like further expand upon that. That was the opening portal to me loving my life for real, and not just loving this fake life that looked good, but actually didn't feel good for me, and pretending like it did.
Isn't it so cool that like life is never what we think it is?
It's the biggest gift. It's the biggest gift.
I keep on surprising myself. Like I'll look at journal entries from like 6 months ago, 6 years ago. I'm like, oh my God, you wanted so many different things. Like,
yeah,
I was writing the name of a boy down 3 pages, like just writing his name. I haven't thought about that guy in years. And you know what I mean? Like all my intention and all my like love and fuel was going towards making and manifesting something like that. And I'm like, I haven't thought about that in so long.
Literally. Yeah, it's like the amount of surprises that, like you said, it's like the way that I just keep surprising myself. I'm like, oh, I'm like, the way that this keeps surprising me, like this friendship, the friendships that I have keep surprising me. AJ always says this. He always says like, I prayed for you guys for so long. And it's like, yeah, same. And I'm surprised by how good it actually is. Like I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't know it was going to be this good.
It keeps getting better too. I don't know. I'm just really, really I'm amazed and inspired by you two for many reasons, but I think we're in the possibility business. Like we really, really try to enhance, I don't know, people's heart energy to start to see themselves beyond what their current reality is. And sometimes that's mystical, sometimes that's magical, sometimes it has science behind it, or tradition. But I think more than anything, it is letting people rise to the delicious occasion within, letting people be the big, hilarious miniseries that they actually want their life to be, with highs, lows, and delicious characters and amazing costumes. And I think that's kind of what I'm feeling the most proud of, is that I was able to find people, I was able to pray for people, and kind of magnetize them toward myself, who also feel that power potential that I hope and pray for and write and journal about, and who are like, all right, what do you got today? It's a gift. It's a gift that I didn't know I would have in this way at this time, and is ultimately, as always, exactly what it was supposed to be when it was supposed to be and where it was supposed to be.
Absolutely.
So beautiful. And I want to just add to, like, for anyone listening, if you don't feel like you have this yet, start seeing the possibilities, start seeing the magic, start appreciating even in yourself. Like, an exercise I used to do almost daily was I would walk around my apartment and look at my art and look at the way I was dressing and being like, wow, 6-year-old Tal would be so happy to live this life. And that's what it started with. And I think finding that joy within yourself, again, like we were saying, magnetizes the rest of it. But all of this possibility, it's like, if you are listening and that feels foreign or scary, or you're like, whoa, that couldn't be me, I promise you it could. And it starts with you loving yourself, because that's what's going to attract the magic, the possibility, the potential into your life.
1000%. Ugh,
Like it,
guys, this makes me so happy.
that was gold.
Yeah,
That was gold.
You guys are
for sure.
magic.
I can't believe this is happening.
I'm so glad that it is. And so, as both of you know, I could literally talk to you for my entire lifetime every single day. But since our listen,
I plan to.
yeah, since our listeners probably are on their like hour cap out of podcasting, my last question for both of you. This is the question that every single person on the No Bullshit Manifestation Show gets, is what is one piece of no bullshit advice that you can give to the listeners?
AJ, I'm going to let you go first because I've answered this once and I'm going to think of a new answer.
What you look for, you will find. What you look for, you will find. If you look for reasons to be upset today, if you look for reasons to be brought down, if you look for people to piss you off, if you look for tiny moments to affirm to you that this world actually isn't in your favor, I guarantee you, happily with a big smile, that that's what you're going to receive today. What you look for, you will find. If you want to look for the color pink, you'll find it today. If you want to look for something to affirm to you that this is a kind world, you'll find it. If you want to look for something brand new, if you stay open, like today, I want to look and find a new version of myself, you will find it. That's the law of attraction. That's Newton's third. It's very quite simple, but as no bullshit as I can, what you are looking for, you will find. And the deeper you go into it, the more you'll find it in more and more unconventional, silly, and unthought of places.
Ugh, chills when you said that.
That was so beautiful. I love it. And it's so true. I think, again, like, yeah, if you're looking for happiness, if you're looking for magic, if you're looking for love, yes to all of that. And maybe I haven't thought of a new one, so I'm just going to wing it. But I think building off of that, mine would be, you get to choose. You get to choose. And I think that all the time when I talk to clients or friends and they're stuck in these negative thought patterns, it's like you're choosing that, or you're choosing to believe these limitations. You're choosing to believe, I can't have this, I can have this. And so choose today to look for the things you want to look for. Choose to have a positive mindset. Choose to believe you're going to attract these soul hive friends who you absolutely love. Choose to love yourself. You always get to choose. That's the one power you have, and feel empowered in that. Feel, I try to say that to my clients all the time. Like, I want you to leave feeling empowered that you can do whatever you want, because you can if you choose to.
Absolutely. Ugh, 100%. And to cap this out, the piece of advice that I have is that if you're unhappy within your current relationships, it starts with you. You don't wait for somebody to give you permission to have better friendships. I think that a lot of the times we can look to the world and be like, okay, well, when I have a good friend, then I will believe in the fact that I have good friends. It's like, no. It all starts with you. You are the center point. So come back to you. You give yourself permission to say, I am a good friend and I receive good friends. And just like AJ said, then you will find that. And just like Tal said, you're choosing that. So choose it for yourself. Know that you're the center point of it.
Magic.
I just want you to know, and everyone listening, I've been going on mute to take notes as both of them are talking. It's just like dropping wisdom. I know, like, I have notes from this podcast. I hope you all are taking notes too, but like, just straight wisdom. Preach. I love you both.
Wow, that's so cute that you guys were taking notes over there.
I learn new things from you both every day. What a
You
gift.
literally
Every
drop
day.
knowledge every time we're together, and I have to record it just so I can give it to the Smithsonian in a couple years. Like, it's gold. It's gold. And it's things I've been trying to say and things I've been trying to think that you say, and you always get it, and it's so beautiful. This is
Ah,
awesome.
guys, wow, what a perfect way to start Friday. Alrighty, well, listeners, you can find Tal and AJ on Instagram. I'm gonna put both of their Instagrams in the show notes down below because you're probably as obsessed with them as I am. And if you are, you should definitely hang out with them on Instagram because they both post these wisdom drops that they shared on this episode all the time and have some really incredible things that you can be a part of. But both of you, AJ, Tal, thank you. Thank you. I love you so much. Thank you for coming on my show. This is the first of many, I believe.
Oh, get ready. Oh, I love you so much. I love you both.
Love you.
Happy Friday.
Hey, real quick before you go, I have something for you. If you are loving the No Bullshit Manifestation Show and you're always wanting to expand and calibrate your nervous system for greater levels of wealth, then I've created the perfect nervous system expansion meditation for you. This meditation will take you through the process that I use to start to call in greater levels of wealth into my life and calibrate your nervous system for more money moving forward. All you have to do to claim this meditation is leave a review for the No Bullshit Manifestation Show on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify. Take a screenshot of your review and send it to me via email, which is hello@katkozad.com. Once I get your email with the screenshot of the review, I will send you the link to claim your nervous system expansion meditation for money manifestation. You can also find these instructions down below in the show notes. But with that, that's all that I have for you, and I am sending you my love. I'll chat with you on the next podcast.